If you've been feeling frustrated with your brand lately, maybe people are forgetting you, or you feel like you're showing up and doing all the things and still aren't making any moves, or you don't feel like the traction is there, there's a good chance you could be making one of these three mistakes that we're going to be breaking down today. You see, the thing is, we tend to step into our brands with the purpose of serving, right? But what we wind up forgetting is who we are and what we can truly bring to the table in the process. So we're going to be diving into the three branding mistakes that tend to keep businesses, especially women-owned businesses and queer-owned businesses, stuck. But before we dive into that, if you're new here, my name is Hunter Myers and I am the face and mind behind Verger Design Co. I help bold founders build magnetic brands that sell with confidence, clarity, and connection. And here on this channel, we treat branding a little bit like dating because both require chemistry, commitment, and knowing who the hell you are. So let's go ahead and dive into these three branding mistakes. And before we do, I wanted to let you know that if you are finding yourself saying, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, I'm doing it, don't feel bad, because each and every one of these mistakes is a mistake that I also made in my own business over the last 5.5 years. Okay, so I am sharing these with you so you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully move a little faster in your business towards a brand that feels like you and connects well with your customers. So what are these three mistakes? Well, first, one of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners, especially women in queer-owned businesses, doing is watering down their personalities in their brand. And this is oftentimes so they can appeal to more people, right? We want to make sure that we are attracting enough people. We don't want to offend anyone. We don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to be perceived as perhaps unprofessional or as someone who is less qualified. And so what winds up happening is we water down our personalities to fit a mold that we think the business world and our customers want. The problem is, as we do this watering down, we are actually setting ourselves up for something that we aren't thinking we're going to be doing, but do. And that is, we set ourselves up to be forgotten. When you water yourself down and water your personality down when you are showing up in your business, you oftentimes wind up looking like everybody else. There's not that thing that draws people in and helps them remember who you are. So I want to give you an example of what this looked like for me in my business. So I've been speaking more. I've been showing up and offering workshops and teaching people my 4-part client connection framework. And when I first gave this workshop at a summit, I told myself, Hunter, you need to be taken seriously here. And so let's make sure that we cut out a lot of these references and things that you wanted to make prior. So for those of you who don't know, I am a huge rom-com fan. I love rom-coms. I love talking about rom-coms, especially the early 2000s ones. And it is something that can relate really well to what I talk about since I compare branding to dating. But when I did this workshop in the first place, I took out all of my rom-com references that were in my presentation because I thought if I do this, I'm not going to be taken as seriously as I should be. I need to be showing up as this professional. And you know what happened? I showed up, I delivered the talk, and it was fine, but it was so similar to a number of the other talks that were given. Sure, I had this dating analogy, but the way it was presented, there wasn't much in it that was super memorable. So unless someone was really interested in me specifically and engaging with me specifically, the topic didn't land as well with this audience as it could have. And the people didn't remember me. Now, I did that, and I had a second chance to give this workshop at a different summit. And I will say I was nervous. I was like, I feel like I need to make some changes to this. This didn't quite feel right. It didn't feel like me. And so 24 hours before I gave that presentation, I changed the entire thing. I threw in all of my rom-com references again. I made a bunch of new graphics. I did everything that I felt too scared to do the first time. And my thought process was, you know what? This is a small group anyways. If it doesn't land, no big deal. I'll go back and do what I did originally. And when I say that this presentation was so much more impactful than the one that I gave previously, I mean it. People remembered me. I have people now still sending me messages in Instagram. So they'll send me DMs, be like, oh my gosh, I saw this person make a reference to a rom-com in their content and I had to reach out to you and tell you about, your talk, or say that this reminded me of you. And that is the power of injecting your personality into the brand. And so again, I know that this can be kind of scary, but I'm going to encourage you to think about some of those things that make you unique and help people connect with you, and find a way to include those in your brand so that you become more memorable. So let's talk about mistake number 2. This is trying to be or show up as someone that you're not. And so I know in this world, we hear oftentimes, fake it until you make it. It doesn't really matter. Just get in there and do it. And I think that does have a time and a place. But I will also say that when you are developing a brand, you have to feel some kind of connection to it. And it has to feel, especially if you are a founder and are oftentimes the main person running this brand or the face of it, you've got to feel a connection to it. And you've got to feel good in it. We've all heard of imposter syndrome, right? When you build a brand that isn't in alignment with who you are and you're the person who has to show up in the brand, I can assure you, you will wind up holding yourself back. And how do I know this? Because I made this mistake. I made this mistake early on in business when I thought that I was going to provide luxury branding for luxury businesses. Like, that is who I wanted to attract. And so I was like, cool, well then I need to make myself look like a luxury business. Now, for anyone who doesn't know me, I have never bought a luxury item ever in my life. Like, you can find me knee deep in the thrift store, avoiding any luxury thing I possibly can. So when I tried building this brand, it felt like wearing something that didn't fit right. And what this wound up doing is it made marketing really challenging for me because I didn't want to do it. I felt gross. I felt like I was leading people on and catfishing people. And because I wasn't showing up with full conviction in my brand, I was forgettable. So what I encourage you to do if you find yourself kind of making this mistake, I want you to sit down and think about, who are you? Is there a way that you can still work with the people that you want to be working with? So for me, luxury businesses, right? But still have a piece of you involved in the branding. Now, if this is something that you're struggling with, I highly recommend reaching out to a brand strategist and designer like myself or anyone else in your network who provides those services, because they can help you flesh out those pieces of you that can be injected into the brand to connect correctly with the clients you want to be serving. But I can assure you that showing up as someone you're not is not going to work in your business. You will eventually experience too much friction and choose to back out. So find a way to be yourself in one way or another. And that is not necessarily your whole self. You don't have to share everything, but find a way to be yourself and have some of that authenticity in your brand so you can make sure that you're showing up the way that you want to. Now let's talk about mistake number 3. And this is a really, really common one. This is trying to be everything for everyone. I was actually just on a call with a new friend of mine. It was a coffee chat. We really hit it off. And something that she was talking about was how when she first started her design business, she really was doing kind of the VA thing, right? She was trying to do everything that anyone could possibly want. And oftentimes I find that that comes from a people-pleasing tendency, which is something that I also have. Now, don't get me wrong, you should be approaching your business with a bit of that like FITFO attitude. If you don't know what FITFO is, it is the figure it the fuck out attitude, because that is what helps you grow and push yourself in business. But that doesn't mean that you have to say yes to every single thing a client asks you to do. I'm sure we have all had these clients who just love to push the boundaries on what their package included. And I want you to know that that is one of the fastest ways to slow your business down, trying to be a Jack or Jill of all trades. Now, there are definitely some instances where it is helpful, and I'm not necessarily saying you need to niche down to just one specific teeny tiny thing. What I am saying is, for your brand to be as impactful as possible, you have to get clear on what it is that you do best and who that best serves. Now, when I first started out, again, I was like, I I gotta make money. I gotta figure out what it is that I like anyways. And if you are first starting out, try all the things. Figure out what it is that you like or don't like doing. But once you've nailed that down, that's when it's time to really hone in and narrow into what your brand needs to be representing and who it needs to be showing up for. Now, if this is something, like I said, you're struggling with, reach out to a brand designer or strategist. They will help you flesh these things out. It is so much easier to have a conversation with someone and bounce ideas off of each other and have an additional mind to help sift through your identity and your personality and who you want to serve and all of these puzzle pieces to build you a brand that functions at its best and avoids these mistakes that we have talked about today. If you want me to be one of these people, reach out to me. I'll share my Instagram in the description so that you can contact me. I'll also have my email there if you want to ask any questions directly. We can book a discovery call. We can talk about your project and your brand. If you already kind of have a general idea and you're still like, I want to DIY it still, but would love to get your eyes on my stuff, you can book one of my power hours. You get my undivided attention for 60 minutes with over a decade of design, illustration, and marketing experience to help you guide your brand to the place you want it to go. So all of that information is going to be in the little description below. Now, if you liked this video, if you like talking about branding and marketing, if you have questions about any of this and you want to stay connected, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I post videos like this every week where we dive into all of these topics, and I am always happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. So share those in the comments too. Like I said, like and subscribe, share the video with your friends or whoever you want to share it with, and I will see you in the next one.